don't not seek medical attention. If you need, assistance from medical, go for it, because it's a bridge right now. Because there are issues that are taking place. This is a mutation that goes for the guts. It's literally changing our brain chemicals. It's changing things in the way that hormones are supposed to act in the body itself. So you will have physical symptoms sometimes, but we have the ability to override the symptoms. Patience is one of the biggest things. I mean, I've been reading great patience in practice. It was so bad, the pumping, that in Andorra, I actually pulled the muscle all the way up from back here, running up over here and down over here. The pain was excruciating. I felt like I was being stabbed to death. So I'll show you a little bit why those things are happening. Because when you see what's actually inside, we talk about having the azaras here, and we have chakra 5 up here, and chakra 8's kind of here, chakra 4 is down here. Where are these things? What's underneath them? What's inside of them? What does it look like in there? Most of us, unless we've been trained as doctors or radiologists, kind of forgot all the stuff they might have taught us when we were in like 7th grade health class about what's in there. And when we begin to see where these energy centers that we talk about that are not real according to medical science, and see where they interface with medical science directly, it really helps us to understand where to aim for things. Like, instead of just saying, all right, at the center of your brain is your pineal, so you're going to go, all right, somewhere in there I got the center of my brain, let's try to feel that out where it is, right? Well, now you know where it is. It's back here, right? It's this bump here. It looks like a little nipple, actually. It's not these bumps here. It's really funny. Some of the internet diagrams actually show these bumps as being pineal gland, and they are not. They're called something else that I can't pronounce. That's on the medical charts. So once you get familiar with the fact that you have these parts, this is your heliothalamus processing station. It's been dormant for ages. This is the part of your body that has the ability to directly bring in and interface with the currents from the echo. It was always meant to do that. And it feeds those currents down to the rest of your body. It feeds them down into the middle auditory centers and down into the lower auditory centers. And when the whole set of spheres, when the 12 here and the 12 in this are activated, you have literally the full reading of the echo. And it does change your awareness. It will also eventually change your body. It's our ability to transmutate back to what we originally started as. Okay, next one, please. I'm going to move fast. I'll do that, yeah. Just briefly. You actually see here, there's probably whole workshops that could be done in each one of them. There's so much information to each one. There wasn't time to write that much detail in. But remember that little funny look? It's kind of funny. It's like, what do I look like on the inside? Not like that. If you think of how fetuses look, in the science here, they show us the pictures of how fetuses develop. They develop things first. They kind of have this look to them. They have like that eye thing that develops in that kind of shape of the head, and then they kind of squirm down here, and then there's a body thing that comes here, and somehow that spirals out to become a human body. Yeah, there's direct things of how that does that actually. But this is the triangulation I was talking about. This is what we're going to begin the process of activating. It goes through, these are just names to show you kind of like a map reference points. So you have an idea if you want to look in the medical book. You can say, it's by the, what you call it? Yeah, so you can see where these things are. Because the diagrams, even though I had to work these took a lot of hours to do these stupid drawings. I was lucky that I was trained as an artist earlier, or I wouldn't have been able to put them even anywhere near the right places. But fortunately, I can look at something and copy it pretty close to what I see, like in a book or something like that. So you get a good idea of how they interact with each other. It's not perfect, but it's not bad as far as relationships. We're going to be activated. This is the centers that the entire chakra system in the head, which is the density-free shield, activates through. And if that density-free shield activates inappropriately, it will change the angles of frequency coming in to all of the other shields all the way down in the body, which will change the way chemicals and DNA manifest. Right now we have a chemical anomaly in our bodies and a chemical anomaly in our DNA. In fact, we've been reduced to a base 4 genetic alphabet. It's supposed to be a base 12 genetic alphabet, minimum. Indigos are even more than base 12 genetic alphabet. So this stuff, this is exciting. We begin to change this. Now, to understand what it means to change this has to do with understanding that this has the chakras connected to it at various angles. And those chakras have numbers, and those numbers are shield numbers that are key to the planetary chakras that are floating around there around our sun, and to do with galactic and universal level chakra system. So they are Cathara interface points. So if we have distortions in our Cathara centers because we pick them up coming through in incarnation, coming through into planetary grids, they will completely manifest themselves within these areas, but they won't function properly. Right now, right down here, this is where the V shape of the crown chakra would come in. Right now, the interface system isn't hitting the pineal like it's supposed to. It's hitting the space in between. It's literally cutting off the natural flow. So this is the beginning, just so you know that this is the structure, the primary structure of the brain that we're talking about. There'll be more. This is over here is the hypothalamus, just in case you're curious. In case you look at diagrams and you can't see any of these places we talked about all in one place. Yeah, the hypothalamus area in here. It kind of goes from here to in here and in here. It's this kind of whole reason. This is something, I don't have it labeled, but they call it the mammillary body or something like that. I call it mammillary body. It's just something short to remember. But it's a reference point when you look at the brain diagrams, if you ever want to really look at this, to study where these connections occur. This here is the pituitary gland. This is that center point where the thalamus spine is the center of the brain. They call it the adhesion, where it adheres the thalamus on this side to the thalamus on the other side of the brain. And back in here, right here, is the pineal gland. This is what we're directing energy to when we do all these exercises. Bringing it up to the pineal gland, but then send it this way. This is what we're activating when we do that. And there is a lens. They're just giving me information of where particularly the apparatus of the etheric duct systems and lens systems are in the body. So once I get them down from the Cathara grid, right, where you see those little bands of membranes, right, that go across in the Cathara centers in the diagram that I showed before, the Cathara center, the membrane would be the lens that interfaces here. So there's going to be an expansion of these diagrams to show you more and more of where those diagrams will show you on Cathara in the body actually apply to physical body parts. The understanding is essential just in the fact so you know what you're working with. So if you're going to do technologies, if you're going to use technologies, I believe the beloveds up above learned this long ago that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. If you don't really understand what a thing is or how to use it, and you give it a bit of power to use, who knows what it's going to do with it? You can create messes without even knowing you create messes. You can harm yourself without knowing you harm yourself. That's why they focus on educating us first as they give us technologies. They also give us the full explanation, the whole Monty, as they say. Next one, please. This is what I was talking about, the very rudimentary graphs here that you're all going to eventually find. You see these chakra interfaces? Chakra 6, from chakra 6 bridge, chakra 8, from chakra 8 rear, chakra 9 rear. Look at that. So through the circle. Chakra 9 front, chakra 7. Chakra 7, this is the one that sends frequency all the way down into the rest of the body. Right? If there's distortions in the angle of stellar frequencies interfacing with your brain from chakra 7, which would mean there's probably distortions from chakra 10 as well, which is right above it. It creates total distortions in how the energy flows in through here. And it literally shuts down the whole complex of what's supposed to be the internal manifestation facility. It's not just a third eye so you can see things beyond this density. This is a manifestation facility where you bring things from the higher densities. This would correspond to our density 3 level itself. Created at density 3, send it to level 4, send down into Earth core, into D13, make a pattern on it, bring it back into the Earth shields, and activate the whole system of the motor very all the way up, and you actually get to be able to bring into being the thing you're trying to manifest. This is what was shut down on us. It was hijacked, actually. It wasn't just shut down. It was interfaced, where certain frequencies would interact with the wrong angles here, create certain chemicals that were reversed from the natural chemical composition when they should be. And it allowed for the ones from the black hole systems and reverse biologies to be able to plug in. This is how they got into our heads. This is how they channel. They literally have a mutation of the angles. They don't have the crown chakra coming down or send the frequency down at the right angle. And this has to do with the planetary misalignments that they created on purpose in our solar shield. Next one, please. This is just a briefing one to show you the next level down, which would be the middle motor etheric system. Now, if you're wondering why I'm talking a lot, this area right in here, this is where the asteroid will be located. These are the bronchial tubes coming down this way. this is where, A, we're clearing Metatronic seed out and bringing it out. This is where all the action is happening. This is where now the motor-etheric complexes are activating in people, the middle motor-etheric complexes. And there is a struggle going on between the part of them that was twisted into Metatronic, into being a Metatronic receiver, where it would receive blue fire source current, and the other part is still normal. Now we had a 1/3, 2/3 ratio, and 2/3 not on our side as far as the Christos frequency. So I know that part of my healing, and I'm hoping it's not going to go into worse physical symptoms, because I know it could. I'm very aware that it could. That it could go so bad that it could actually kill me, and I know that too. But I'm very stubborn and I'm determined not let it happen. But there are real things taking place in this area. They affect not just the breathing apparatus, the bronchial tubes and things. This whole thing here, this is that base of thymus we talk about, right? Or thalamus. Where the thymus? Holy dude, thymus is down here. Yeah, thalamus is in the brain. Yeah, thymus is in the thymus. That's the thymus gland right there. Just trying to get a little drawing here. Pardon my sloppy lines, but at least it gives you reference. All right. You have your breathing tube coming down this way, and you have the thymus, tube, yeah. And under that, it's like sitting on top of the heart. This whole thing here is actually the heart. And it's like as if the lungs are like pulled back a little bit so you can see what's under the lungs. If you fold your lungs back over, they recover most of that from the frontal view. But these things not only manifest as the motor-etheric crystals, not only manifest as interfaces between these organ systems, the thymus and the bronchial system and the breathing systems, but they interface directly with a dormant, is becoming not dormant now, duct system. Their duct system is in the heart itself. And it's meant, right now with the mutation, to literally change the structure of the heart by running electronic frequency through it. And it would enlarge the heart for people who are running that frequency. And it would actually start becoming the process of separating the two sides of the heart, where we have right ventricles and left ventricles in the heart now, but there's still a solidified muscle that's one. When full Metatronic mutation is complete, it will create a complete separation between those two, and it will take on the Anunnaki configuration, where there are literally two physical parts in the body. And right now, there's an issue with, people say there's all sorts of reasons why they tell us that, we get heart disease, why we're getting heart disease on a rapid level in our societies right now, why we're getting cancer. Some of the things that we do contribute to those things. Now, smoking, not having a good diet, those kind of things, yes, they contribute. But they're not the core cause. The core cause is the fact that there's been a Metatronic battle going on in our bodies for ages now, and it's coming to a head at this point in time. So people that are having issues with the heart, most often it's because these particular centers, these duct systems, are malfunctioning because of the mutation. And literally, these duct systems are meant to short circuit the heart itself, so it couldn't continue to process frequency through the body. So even if it could get in through the head, it wouldn't be able to go much further than the middle of the body. It wouldn't be able to anchor. And what it would do progressively is create an early bardo, which is an early, the body shuts down and drops frequency so fast that the consciousness can't stay in it anymore, so it kills the physical body. I mean, we were being murdered slowly from the inside out through these mutations. So when you think about the fact that, yes, we love these people, some of the Anunnaki people that we were very close to at certain times when they wanted to become Christos. But they have chosen to honor the Metatronic model instead of this. And no matter how much we love them, look at what they think is all right to do. They're literally murdering masses of people from the inside out and think that's just fine. They say, well, we're in a free will universe, we're allowed. But they don't ask those people to use their free will to choose whether or not they want to participate. So this is where we need, as human beings, as indigos, to remember tough love for a little bit. We were pushovers in their lives. We allowed this to get this bad. And it's time that we said, okay, I won't be quite so white-loving, realizing that everybody really doesn't think as highly of things as I can do that. Just because you're not capable of doing something terrible and awful to another being, doesn't mean somebody you meet might not be. And that's one of the greatest things to wake-up calls, where you realize that not everybody in the world is as nice as you. And even if you're not perfect, you lose your temper and you have a hissy fit and those kind of things. But you come back into balance and you're still a loving person, you really care about other people. There are really people on this planet who don't have that ability. And that's scary, because it's so different than what we are and what we're trained to be. They haven't a clue that that even exists. That happened in Atlantis. We're repeating the Atlantean karma now. Hopefully we'll learn faster. Anyway, next one, please. There's a lot more anatomy to come to this. I just wanted to give you the basic ideas of where things were located. I won't spend too much time on this one. What's inside of the body parts. You know, I saw more of the inside of, let's say, our romantic organs than I ever wanted to in trying to do this graph to find out what was connected or what was connected or what. Because when you get down to it, with the lower motor array, you have certain things located. The motor array itself is located right here. It'll be in the tip area, in this little cone-shaped area of the coccyx, which is at the end of tailbone, right down here. All right? Now this interfaces directly with literally all of the vertebrae, and they all have nerve networks that run outward and affect all of the organs. I mean, this is literally our central communication system between the higher densities and lower densities. So this particular aspect of the motor array is interesting because it interfaces and is supposed to create natural triangulations and interfaces of energy of the spheres down there between parts like the prostate gland in males, like the testicles and the interior testicles, and in females between the ovaries and things like, oh, that's really goodness. You know, things like that. Now, those private parts that we don't like to talk too much about because it's still embarrassing in this day and age sometimes to talk about them, but they directly interface with the lower motor array complex. We're going to learn more about that because it has everything to do with when a man and a woman comes together to make a baby, even if they don't have the intention. When their bodies come together, if those centers, those circulations of energy, those spheres, are not activated properly, you create different charges and polarities and spins. You create a fetus. It's mutated. Every one of us has been born into one of those fetuses because this has been going on since this mutation took hold. We wonder why it's been so challenging on this planet to have a decent relationship between males and females that actually lasts a long time without one compromising their power and letting the other dominate them, or flipping back and forth, where it's like, well, you had power for 10 years, so I'm going to be the dominant one now, and I'll leave you if you don't let me. You know, sometimes marriages ask for that, you know, sometimes they don't. But the whole issue that has kept the war going on between the genders is the fact that the organ systems down in here and here, and right through the DNA, have been transmitting the same polarity toward each other when they're supposed to transmit opposite electrical charge. So they can form a circuit. What they don't do is form a circuit. From a partial circuit to the other part reverses, and it repels. It creates a magnetic repulsion zone, like a void zone, that doesn't belong there. It's effective. Every baby that's been born on the planet since 25,500 BC, and it affects us now in our own relationship to our own sexuality and to sharing that with other people. And these parts, as we saw in that original diagram where it didn't even have a body shown, it just showed the spheres. It showed the 12 spheres of the lotus as they manifest in the body through the motor array. They directly, the lower spheres, directly interface with the middle ones, the high chakra ones, don't they? This is the whole emotional and sexual complex that's being controlled. And it's being controlled by the angle of frequency coming through the brain. This is a part of ourselves that we're going to finally be able to begin to do. So, there's more on that later. I'm not looking forward to those workshops because I still blush when I see the insides of things. What is next? Just wanted to remind you here, kind of interesting little thing. We're going to talk about something, remember, that part of the brain, the center of your brain, which is where the angles of frequency begin to interface through the motor complex. What we're going to do is by the end of this, of learning about the cosmic clock, we're going to learn how. See what you're seeing here is actually a hint of what the cosmic clock is about. They're like vortex files. They come in all the way from the echo level. But they're not just stationary. Everything spins. And it's not flat, so it's not just disks. It's spheres within spheres. And they're not all with the same axis alignment, which is enough to drive one insane. One of the hardest parts of translating this data was, first of all, you have to find your natural. All right, what is the sphere of the echo? Right? We learned, yesterday from the stuff that was given yesterday. that it's a sphere that's at a 45-degree axis, and it spins clockwise. That's a clockwise one. But that generates an interior vector field that spins counterclockwise. But what are the angles of the planes of the shields in relation to each other? Because that's what tells you what the angle of the Merkaba is in relation to each other. These rats start reading that, to be honest with you. I'm holding up papers, okay. This is the top from this view. This means if I turn this way, it's this way, and there's like several series of them. So this is why it took so long. But it's all about, well, you're going to see, we're going to go up to the sky now, up into the understanding cosmic clock. It's all about how angles interface directly with our brains. It's also about how they interface with the planetary seed atom and the solar galactic seed atoms as well. Because what's mutating our brains is also mutating the consciousness of the planets that we're on and the suns. They're not just dormant things called, lumps of rock that are floating around burning lumps of rock. They're consciousness, just like we're consciousness. From a certain perspective, we look like rotating balls of energy too. We don't look like we look to ourselves right here and now. When we look at the stars, we're not just looking at objects. We're looking at soul collectives, oversoul collectives. We're looking at beings. They are conscious. They experience reality different than we do. They have a different network of emotional body programming. They have different shield set. But we are part of what they have. We had to pass through central suns, a series of them, just to get to our solar system. And we had to pass through the gates of the center of our sun to get to this earth, to incarnate here. And we had to pass through the gates of earth to get ourselves in the bodies we have now, to get into a fetus that was created here. And in all that passing through suns and shields, we picked up the distortions of every piece of them as they went along the way. And that has created such a distortion in what is aligning with what in relation to our brains that it has kept our space locked here and stuck. So all of this, when you learn what we're going to go into now is the stuff that took me all day and last night to do, is about the cosmic clock. The cosmic clock is about the angles of relationship of the frequencies coming in to your brain directly. So even when we go out there and you can see where it affects sun and stars, don't forget that this is all about how it directly affects you in your biology. It affects how chemicals are produced in your body. It affects how many, what type of amino acids your DNA produces. Everything about you physically is directly connected to the angles of frequency interface that are coming through these particular systems.